Hey, it's Steven here, and this is my top 5 LEGO set predictions for the Book of Boba Fett Season 1. So these aren't based on any rumors, kind of like the N1 Starfighter or the Throne Room. These are completely me watching the series and thinking, oh, that would make a good LEGO set. I could totally see LEGO doing that as a LEGO set. All right, so let's not waste any more time, and let's go ahead and jump in. All right, first up is my dream set, my pipe dream set, the set that I think LEGO will never do, but I would love for it to happen. And that's the Krayt Dragon Skull Sandcrawler. I thought it was just such an awesome small moment of that episode. Just seeing the Sandcrawler roll through the desert with that giant Krayt Dragon Skull strapped down on top. I remember just seeing that and I was like, mad props to you, little Jawas. That's awesome. So if LEGO made this, I'd want it to be huge. I'd want it to be big. I'd want it to be like a 3,500 piece set. Throw in like 7 minifigs. So start with Din Djarin, and then maybe actually have a couple people from Freetown, like Cobb Vanth, and some other member of the city, whether that's the deputy, the Weequay bartender, or some other random townsperson, and then finish that off with 4 Jawas. And then, of course, since it's a Sandcrawler, you'd have to have some droids. So throw in a few astromech droids, whether it's an R2, R3, R4, R5, whatever, maybe an RA7 droid, a Gonk droid. We could throw in U3PO, maybe he showed up on the planet after the Tantive 4 was captured, or a GA series droid or an EV series droid. Just throw some stuff in there, especially some stuff that maybe LEGO has never done before. It'd be awesome. But again, I really just want the Sandcrawler with the skull on top to just sit as a display. All right, enough of my pipe dream. Let's talk about a few honorable mentions, and then let's get into the actual top 5. So first of the honorable mentions would be doing like an 18 plus Boba escaping the Sarlacc pit set, kind of one of those Star Wars moments. We're seeing a lot of different ones. They recently had a Jurassic Park one. They're going to have 1 or 2 Star Wars ones rumored for this year. So that would be an option. One that I think would be very polarizing would be having all 4 of the primary mod gang members with their little different colored speeder bikes. Again, I think this would be really polarizing. I feel like younger kids really like them. And then a lot of the older Star Wars fans called them Power Rangers and weren't a big fan. But you know, LEGO, they like to market to kids. So I honestly could see that becoming a set, even though I don't think it would be overly popular. All the duels that happened in Season 1 of Boba Fett, other than the one I'm going to mention with my top 5, I think are all potentially worthy to be sets. Then there's Pelimoto's Rickshaw, which I mentioned in a previous video. If we hadn't just got Pelimoto in the N1 Starfighter, I could totally see them doing this. It just feels like a quirky build that LEGO would do. And finally, something with the 2 Gamorrean guards. I had to do some kind of honorable mention for those 2 guards. RIP boys. I can't believe Star Wars actually made me care about some Gamorrean guards. So anything with the 2 of them in it, I have to give some kind of shout out. All right, so let's move into the actual real top 5 predictions. And again, these aren't leaks. These are just my predictions of what sets they might make. All right, set number 1, the Tatooine Sand Ape Attack. It feels like there's at least a reasonable chance they'll do a set from his time with the Tusken Raiders. However, we just had the Mandalorian set with a Tusken Hut from Mando Season 2, so I don't see them doing the Village. And the Tusken Train Raid, which almost made my honorable mentions, is an option, but if they're making a scene from the Tusken flashbacks, I think this would be the most popular and logical choice. So let's start with the build. Obviously, let's start with the Sand Ape, which appears very inspired by the Edgar Rice Burroughs Princess of Mars series and the Great White Apes with 4 arms. This one, despite the ape name, is a reptilian creature. This would be a brick-built creature similar-ish to the Creator Creature series. However, I think they'd have to do the head as a mold to get it to look right. They already have some molds that are similar to this, but it would have to be upscaled and be filled out more. However, I could see this being popular as people want to have more Star Wars aliens and creatures. They could potentially even do a few molded parts like they did with the Rancor and the Wampa. A mold would definitely look better. I don't know if they do it though. I'll assume they ultimately would do a bit of a combo of a mold and a brick build. The other part of the build would be the long-awaited Bantha. So ultimately, I think this would be a super popular set from the standpoint of getting a Bantha as well as the Sand Ape. We have that microfighter build of a Bantha, but again, scale that up a bit, maybe throw in a couple of molded pieces. Piece count, I think, is really tough because it would depend so much on how much molded pieces versus brick build they would end up doing. Ultimately, I'll say it'll be around 300 pieces, assuming they have several larger molded pieces. Minifigs, I'm going to say 3. Let's do Boba Fett, but let's have him in his little flight suit that's under his armor. Include the Tusken Child, as well as that Rodian prisoner. For price, I'll say $40, but if they go with a lot of molded new pieces, I could see it easily stretch to like $50, much the same way it does in the Jurassic World sets with their molded dino pieces. So I think price and value is going to come down to what kind of build they give us and how many molded pieces ultimately end up getting incorporated. Set 2 would be Boba Fett's Rancor or the Rancor Counterattack. This is another set that's really tough to nail down. And the way I'm picturing it in my mind, it almost seems like it would be more perfect for a Ninjago Lego set than how Star Wars typically does their set designs. So it's hard to know exactly how Lego would design this. Either they would do the Rancor as a standalone with a small to moderate structure build and some minifigs, or how I would do it and how I've mentioned in a previous video, and which I would like a lot more, which means I probably wouldn't do it, but I would have them also include a Scorpenek droid for the Rancor to actually battle. And ultimately, if they did that, I think this would be such a popular set, because people would not only want the Rancor, they'd want the Scorpenek droid. So piece count, I really think depends, again, on how many molded pieces they do. For the Rancor they currently have that I think would be too small, I think it would have to be upscaled. But that Rancor is mostly molded pieces. So I think you would have to upscale the Rancor build, probably have it as a mix between molded pieces and brick built, and then additionally have the Scorpenek droid. So I'm thinking somewhere between 500 to 600 pieces. They could obviously have a lot more. It really just depends on the type of build they do. I would include 4 minifigs with Boba Fett, probably one of the mod gang members, or potentially a Freetown freedom fighter, and then 2 of the Pike soldiers or thugs. And then I would price this out at about $60. But again, it would really depend on the type of build they ultimately did. Set number 3 would be the Boba Fett and Cad Bane duel. And as I mentioned in other videos, Lego loves to make duel sets. So I could totally see them making this set. And they could even do a combo of the Rancor set and this set and just throw the Rancor in. I don't think they would do that. And I think it would lose the spirit of this being a duel set, similar to their other duel sets, like the duel on Mandalore or Naboo or Mustafar or wherever. So if we're keeping it more along those lines, I think it would be a smaller set, probably more like 150 pieces, with just the 2 minifigs of Cad Bane and Boba Fett. You'd probably have a small little structural build, and ultimately it would be priced out at about $20. And that all feels like something that Lego would absolutely do. Set number 4 would be Luke training Grogu. So in my original video, I had this as a pretty small set, similar to what I'm proposing for the Boba and Cad Bane duel. However, this time around, trying to sort of guess what Lego would do, I'm making the set bigger this time around. From a build perspective, I think it would include some buildable pieces of scenery, like the fallen log and maybe some rocks for when Luke's jumping across the pond. But I think the prominent build would be Luke's domed school or Jedi Academy, which alas is back to a student body of 0. I see this being pretty similar to sets they've done in the past, like Yoda's Hut and the Octo Island training. Both of those sets were around 250 pieces. I think they might make this one a bit bigger, at least 300 to 350 pieces, so that the school can be more of a play feature with a removable roof. Then Lego could sort of cheat and have Grogu's choice fall into that Lego set as well. They could have a flat square printed piece with the Beskar chainmail shirt on it, along with an extra lightsaber to represent Yoda's. I could also see them including the Marksman training remote that we saw previously in the Obi-Wan's Hut set. So ultimately, I'll say 330 to 350 pieces, 3 minifigs with Luke in his training garb, Grogu, and one of those ant construction droids. And I'll say all of that cost about $40. Seems pretty fair. And then lastly, set number 5 is the Scorpenek Annihilator droid. This is another one that feels like a Lego set waiting to happen. Perhaps not as much as the N1 Starfighter, which just everyone in the world guessed and obviously we got, but this just feels like the type of set that Star Wars Lego set designers love to make. I'll stick pretty close to how I mentioned this set in the Chapter 7 video because I feel like that's what would make sense to Lego as well, where you have one Scorpenek droid and then the remainder of your build is probably that Freetown transport speeder. Perhaps maybe even a small throwaway structure build. Lego likes to do those. So compared to my last video, I'll probably up the piece count to like 400, 425. I think I probably came in too low in that video with the piece estimation. Even this might be too low. It just kind of depends what kind of scope Lego would want to do in making this. Similar to how they've done with several other vehicles where they make them a little bigger, a little smaller. I would include 4 minifigs, so 2 Pike soldiers. I would probably throw in a second mod gang member, or you could have a Freetown fighter. And then lastly, the inclusion I've been waiting to have, Black Chrysanthemum. He's got to be in one of these sets. We saw that he actually tries to fight the Scorpenek droid in that last episode by himself, and then he gets kicked into a wall. So this is the set where I think he gets included. So taking all those things into consideration, upping the piece count, the 4 minifigs, that probably bumps the price to about $50, which honestly I think that's pretty fair. But what do you think? Do you like any of those sets? What do you think are sets that Lego would do for the first season of Book of Boba Fett? Let me know down in the comments below. I can't wait to talk to you about it. And as always, if you like this video and content like this, a like and subscribe really does help the channel. But thanks for watching my video. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you next time. Kitty cat. Here you go. In and out. In and out, baby. In and out.